I need to live my life in conjunction with my own priorities in a way that if someone who didn't know me, if all they saw were the hours that I spent that day, they could tell you what my priorities were. Life is simply the allocation of your time. That's not the sexiest quote, but it's really useful in terms of actually achieving your goals. So, if I could go back and speak to my younger self, that's what I would say. I spent a lot of time, maybe like a lot of intelligent or motivated people, looking at things like, listening to Alex Hormozy, or I mean, back then it was other influencers. Gathering information for a long time before I would pull the trigger on some of the small businesses that I ended up eventually starting. When I look at it now, there were so many quotes. I would write them down. I'd put them like in my planner, and they would get me motivated. But I started realizing that motivation is cheap, and to some extent, even the education of like trying to know everything there is to know about a particular business or venture or something you're setting out to do, whether it's a fitness goal or whatever it is. I would end up in these places, analysis paralysis, sure. But, a lot of times I would eventually get started, and then I would still devote too much time to trying to learn and know everything to avoid mistakes instead of just getting in there, getting started, and incrementally correcting. And that's a mistake because, life really, when it comes down to it, you have your consciousness is like this spotlight, and you can shine it on things. You can shine it on your goals, or more importantly, your priorities, like the things that you want to grow and be a more important part of your life. Those things are like plants that get bigger if they get the light. So if you think of it that way, it doesn't really matter how much you are motivated or how much you know. It's more about how many hours did you actually spend growing that thing. And for me, it was like the big epiphany one day was when I realized I need to live my life in conjunction with my own priorities in a way that if someone who didn't know me, if all they saw were the hours that I spent that day, they could tell you what my priorities were. And it was those times where I was living in that way that led to the major swaths of success that I experienced. And so for me, the important things are health, wealth, and autonomy. And health with me, the fun part, the part that I truly enjoy is, not just the health part, but actually making my body look like a body that I'm proud of. So, that's weightlifting, and that's like watching my diet. It's making sure that I'm cardiovascularly healthy, sure. But actually being fit in a way that my body is capable, it means a lot to me. I had jobs where maybe the bosses weren't very supportive of me taking the time to say like, hey, I've, put these extra hours in now I need to go work out. Like, this is important to me. And that's why I recognized early on the need to have some freedom and not be so tied to a career. It's perfectly fine to have a career. I don't think you ever want to be in a position where you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're afraid of what will happen if you don't live in accordance with what your boss finds to be a priority, right? And that leads to the third piece, which is autonomy. People might think that the cocktail of what it takes to be happy in life is going to be unique one person to another. And to some extent it is. But honestly, for all of us, I just think you'd be hard pressed to really feel fulfilled or feel like your life was what you wanted it to be if you weren't healthy. To some extent, you need to feel physically good before you can do these other things. If you weren't, and I won't say if you're not wealthy, but I'll say if you're not on the track to that, where that's something you're shining your consciousness on with that spotlight and growing it and knowing that it's getting there, so that with every day you have a little bit more financial freedom and autonomy. Because that's really that's what makes your life your own. You have to focus on that. It doesn't just happen by accident. If you just go with the flow, what will happen is your spouse will end up kind of deciding your priorities for you, your boss, your professors, your parents. If you don't sit and think just absolutely independently without considering what other people think, these are the things that really matter to me in my life. This is what I want my life to be about. If you don't think that, write it down and then make the hours that you spend each day match in proportion to the value you place on each of those items you wrote down. If you don't do that, you will end up doing what, any of us would end up doing, and what all of us have, I'm sure, at different phases in our life ended up doing, and that's reacting. And you just end up caught up in the flow of life. There's so many things that happen. You get the flat tire, and then you get into work and you don't like it, but you're swamped and you're behind. You don't have the time to think about another career or a business that you want to start. Then there's an event that your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever has, and you have to get to that, and you don't have you just get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that one day you just wake up and you're like, how did I end up in this city? Why am I with this person? Was it just that I was with them, we were getting along, and we got to the age where it was time to get married, or it was time to have kids, and now this is, my life, and it feels like I didn't really choose it. I'm trying to avoid that for people. And for some people, even if you are in some of those situations, it's at any point you really could decide to implement this, because this isn't one of those grandiose ideas that's just philosophical. This is very practical. This makes like a real change, and you don't have to be extraordinary in any particular way to do this. You write down what's important. You plan out your day, because that's what life's built of. It's these 24-hour blocks. And you go, this is most important. It's getting most of my time. And that time's going to be dedicated to doing, not just studying it. I'll give myself a limited amount of time to study. And I will spend the bulk of that time doing that thing to grow that thing. It's what I'm doing now. I'm starting out on a new one with this YouTube channel. I don't know that much about cameras. I don't know that much about lighting. I'm certain I'll look back at this video and I'll be like, this is terrible, one day, which will be great, because that means I'll have made the progress. And it's better to just get started, because now it's like one of those plants. Now it's a thing that I'm growing, and every day I'll get better. And, I do study. It's like if I'm at Starbucks or something, I look at advice that other people give. Like I was watching the thing on talking head shots, and I realized, like, I'm probably not even doing it great now. I wasn't looking down the lens like I was looking at a person. I was looking at the little thing on the side of my camera where I could see myself, like, to make sure that I'm in frame. There's going to be tons of little mistakes and things like that. But now I'm doing it, so I get to feel some of that fulfillment of it's not just an idea. It's not just something that is it's not just something that is going to sit there while I think, wouldn't that be great, until I lose motivation and it goes away. No, I'm going to have a video now, whether it's terrible or not. I know that the message is good. Maybe I'll just have to improve upon the delivery. But this is what you do with your life, and there's just no way it can't change your life, because humans get better at things that they do. And then I think you also have to realize, as cliche as it is, that whole life is about the journey, not the destination. You can have some cool destinations, and getting to the destination really can be fun, but it's just the majority of your life is spent getting there. And that part can be immensely fulfilling. as long as like if you are on the path to something like financial freedom, it's going to feel good. So long as your days, you're putting the effort in a way that's commensurate with how important that goal is to you. And, that might mean for you having to do a little more on the education side in the beginning, but then getting out there and doing it and being like, you know what, I want to start investing in stocks. So I'm going to allocate this small amount that I can afford and I'm going to put it in and I'm just going to start that habit. At least then I have the account and now I have the habit of trying to put a little money aside and do it. Or maybe it's real estate and you think, this person I'm reading about and the methods they're employing feel kind of overwhelming to me. So maybe what I'm going to do is the house that I'm in, and when I move out, I'll just rent it out. And you start, looking at the numbers and saying, I think I can get a little more than my mortgage. I'm going to put that money aside for repairs. And just knowing that you're on the path is enough. You don't have to be there yet. And then it's not like you're just waking up every day trying to please other people. Now you're the master. You're the one that created that list of priorities, and you're the one that is now living up to it. You know it, and you feel happy long before you ever get there. And maybe not some superficial like fleeting, giddy type of happiness, but like this underlying security. And that comes back to help you in so many ways. When you have that spouse who surprisingly leaves you, or you lose your job unexpectedly, or some of these things that happen to all of us, they're inevitable when they occur. You have this life that's your own that you can fall back on then. So it's not as devastating to you because you're always building this thing that is uniquely yours and you're living autonomously. And that autonomy, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's not about like loneliness or solitude or being a one-man island. It's about an ability. It gives you this ability to survive these harder things in your life because you're always working towards those things that are important to you. And I hope that advice is helpful. I hope it's grounding. I hope, especially for the types that maybe have these big ideas and you just you don't know where to start, or you feel like you have to have everything put together before you do. Don't. So long as hours are in conjunction with what you value, you are on the right track.